Hello everybody and welcome back to the BluesNot channel. Today we're back with another Quakes preview and we are finally back in the league after we play a meaningless friendly game over this weekend against Manchester United where we drew 0-0. And even though it was an incredibly boring game and it was one of the most boring football games that I have ever watched, at least in some way, it was kind of satisfied that we did not actually get blown out and that we actually did pretty well in that game. And the team, for once, actually put up a clean sheet, which, I'll tell you what, it's been a long time since the Quakes have actually posted a clean sheet. In fact, the last time that I think we posted a clean sheet was back in preseason when we won 4-0 against Reno 1868. And in a competitive match, you have to go back to all the way back to last year that we at least had kept one clean sheet. It's been a very long time. Now, coming into this midweek game, we are playing against the Seattle Sounders, and I have a feeling this game is going to be very similar to the Manchester United game, where there's not going to be a lot that is going to happen, because Seattle, obviously, they are coming in this game with the worst offensive scoring team in the MLS, but they also are coming into this game as the best defensive team in the league. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about the Sounders and how their season is. A lot of them talk about how, you know, their season is absolutely awful because they just don't go on the attack very often. They're just being way too defensive, and you know, it kind of explained with the fact that they only have scored 20 goals so far this season. But at the same time, they've been very kind of defensive organized, and maybe the fact that they kind of always go with the defensive mind first, maybe that's the reason why they have conceded the fewest goals in MLS, and that they only have conceded 18 goals so far. So I have a feeling in this game they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to basically try to go defensive and somehow in some way maybe nick 1 or 2 goals in this game. I mean, they've been kind of doing it for the last couple of games where, despite the fact that they don't play that attacking attractive soccer and they don't play like a very free-flowing kind of soccer, they at least have somehow find a way to score 1 or 2 goals and being very compact in the defensive end. And knowing the Quakes and how on the attack, when they at times have trouble even figure out the weakest defense in the league, yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work out when they do face probably the strongest defense and one of the hardest defense to break down, that is the Seattle Sounders team. Now, one thing that I will also hope for is that I'm hoping that the defensive display I saw against Manchester United was not just a one-off thing. I hope that was something that maybe is started to kind of turn around. And, you know, let's just say that I really am excited about our new signing, Gorem Kashea, in that center back role, because when I saw him play in that game, he looked like the best center backs that we had in a while. I mean, this guy is kind of like just a guy that we've been really desperately need in our defensive core, and he just looked almost as good as Florian Ljungberg in that center back role. So I'm so glad that we've actually signed a decent kind of center back, and that I'm hoping that with him and his leadership, which is just something that I haven't seen a lot of Quakes defender done this season, besides whenever Florian Ljungberg is in that center back row, it might give a little bit, finally kind of turn this defense a little bit around, of how they can just stop conceding those really sloppy goals and just make some horrible giveaway that lead to goal. And, you know, maybe that will be a way that can potentially get our season back on track, because we all know that the defense is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, reason why we are dead last in the league right now. I mean, it is absolutely atrocious, and if you look at the goals that we have conceded so far this season, I can tell you that half of those goals would have easily been prevented if we actually had a proper defense. But now talking about the players that we got to watch out for the Seattle Sounders, well, to be fair, there isn't really a lot of players that we got to really watch out for. I mean, it used to be, I have to say that we got to watch out for Clint Dempsey, but we know how Clint Dempsey is this season. He's been as slow as a turtle, and he's just been very ineffective for that team. But if there is one guy I will say that we got to watch out for, it's going to be Nicholas Lodeiro. And even though Lodeiro so far hasn't really been as good as he has in past year, mainly because he's been spending more time on the IR than actually playing on the pitch, he is still a very good central attacking mid. And when he has a good day and when he actually feel like he really want to take it to the next level, then he is considered one of the best central attacking midfielder in the league. And you know, he kind of did that against the Vancouver Whitecaps by scoring a brace in that game, so that is one guy that we got to watch out for. Now, in terms of the starting 11 for this game, well, we are going to be going with the usual 4-4-2, and in goal, I know I hate to say this, but I think it's going to be Tarbell that's going to be back in goal. And you know, in that Manchester United game, who knew that when Tarbell did not start in the starting 11 or even play a single minute in that game, that we were able to keep a clean sheet? And as crazy as it sounds that we need to put him back, even though the two other goalkeeper that we had, Brizano and Mark Zinkowski, are very decent, I don't know if Mark Zinkowski has been recalled by the team. Now, if he has recalled by the team, then I'm definitely putting him ahead of Tarbell. I mean, I've been saying it so many times that, you know, Mark Zinkowski, I know that people say that it's still very early for him to just jump into that goalkeepership and that expect him to excel and stuff like that. But if you already seen from what happened with him at Reno 1868, and you saw in that game against Manchester United, he is just by far so much better than Tarbell. He actually feels like a guy that has the leadership to guide that center back core that we have, and that is something that Tarbell just do not have at all. I mean, you know, so don't know if he has recalled back from the team, or is he going to be going back to Reno 1868, but for now it's going to be Tarbell that's going to be in there. But in that left back row, and heck, why not, let's actually put Kuyberg in that left back row, because I know that there's been a lot of criticism about Kuyberg and how he is just clearly not good enough, and he's kind of like the same sort of left back that we've been having so far throughout the season. But against Manchester United, he actually looked pretty decent for once. And at this point, with the fact that we don't really have any more left back that we can actually put out there that is decent, why don't we at least give him a chance and at least see that if he is very effective. Now, if he is just completely tear it up and just completely gone kind of full Salinas in that left back row, then I understand why we should, of course, put him back on the bench. But still, I really think we should at least give him another try and see how it's gonna go. So he's gonna be there in that left back row, and then in the center back row, it's gonna be Goran Kishia and Howard Cummins, and those two players in that Manchester United game was absolutely rock solid. And maybe now we have finally found our center back kind of core that we've been looking for throughout the season. I mean, so far this season, we've been kind of flip-flopping center backs just to see which one actually is very effective. And it turns out none of them were actually effective. But knowing that what we saw in that Manchester United game, and knowing that Goran Kishia can actually bring that leadership and actually kind of act like that Youngworth role without putting Florian Youngworth back in that center back role, then he has to start in that game alongside with Cummins. Now, in the right back, it is going to be Nick Lima as usual. And then in the holding midfield, I'm going to say it's going to be Youngworth, and Jackson Yu is going to be there. There's no way I'm putting Annabelle Godoy back in that starting 11. I mean, in that Manchester United game, you saw how awful he was in that game, and it's pretty clear that he definitely deserved to be getting benched until he actually started to be more decent. Now, in terms of the left wing, it's going to be Magnus Eriksson. In the right, it is going to be Marco. And going forward, I'm going to say it's going to be Wando and Danny Huijsen. And that, of course, is my starting 11 for this game. And in terms for the prediction for this game, well, like I said, this is going to be a game that is going to be very similar to that Manchester United game. I have a feeling it's going to be low scoring, and I have a feeling it's going to be a very boring game, and it's going to be a game that could potentially put me to sleep. But at the same time, I have a feeling that we can finally end this losing run. I mean, I know that the Quakes have been they've been god awful lately, but maybe with the fact that after in that game against Manchester United, and after we actually look very decent for once, maybe that can potentially carry into this game, and that we can actually get a win. And heck, the Sounders are not as good as they used to be, and I know we don't really have a good record against the Sounders at home, but they're not as good as they used to be, and this is supposed to be their rebuilding year. So I have a feeling that we are going to actually get a win in this. I mean, I know it sounds crazy because we haven't got a win since May, but I have a feeling it finally has to come to an end. I mean, eventually it's gonna have to come to an end at some point, but either way, I'm gonna say we're gonna win it by a final score of 1-0. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.